Well, I think what Bach means to me is probably what he means to every single one of us as musicians. His music really is the Bible, and I think it's also by playing his music that you mark your sort of technical growth and spiritual growth as an instrumentalist. Also, I think it's the touchstone that keeps the playing honest too with Bach, because there is no other way than the truth. I mean, this feeling is so strong of something that is so totally authentic, and honest and direct, and goes absolutely to the core of, to the very essence of the human soul, that there's absolutely no way to cheat with anything. Of course, it's a very good question. I mean, one of my first teachers always said that Bach should be the daily bread, and that even if I was only going to play it much later, or perhaps not at all in public, that he should be part of my daily life. And I mean, that was a wonderful piece of advice, which I'm very thankful I actually respected and heeded. But I think at the end, the only way to pay respect to Bach's genius is to confront his music. I mean, this is the only way that it comes to life again. It's like a sacred text. It lives anew with each interpretation. So there's no avoiding it. And I think staying away from it because you revere him too much would be so going counter everything that drove him in his existence as an innovator, as an instrumentalist himself, as a composer, as a great mystic in a way, that it would be really betraying his very thoughts. Well, of course, one of the things that always fascinated me about Bach is why is it that he has such tremendous impact on people who have no foundation in classical music whatsoever? So what is it that makes his impact so much more powerful than any other composer, really? And of course, the theme of universalism has sort of accompanied me during my entire life, and it's a recurrent theme. But for sure, one can say, with certainty, that Bach is the most universal of all composers, in the sense of, in the etymological root of the word, that it is unique and yet pours in all directions. And of course, I was pondering that fact, and also realizing that with Bach, beyond all of the questions about on which instrument should he be played, and all these questions of authentic performance, that the only tradition that truly matters, I think, is one of intellectual and emotional honesty. I mean, that is the tradition of art itself. And if you live this principle, then everything else is irrelevant. Just like whatever you play Bach on is irrelevant. I mean, I don't even remember which very inspired, oddly enough, Baroque musician said that you could play Bach on anything as long as the soul is in tune. And this very much says it all. And this is what gave me this idea of bringing together pieces of Bach in their purest of forms, namely the well-tempered Clavier. What I call for myself, at least for a pianist, the Bible within the Bible. And to juxtapose these with transcriptions. So Bach seen through the eyes of great pianist composers such as Busoni, Liszt, and Rachmaninoff. Well, I don't see how it could offend people in classical world, at least not well-informed ones, because the well-tempered Clavier was never written as a cycle. We know that many of the preludes and fugues were written in separate times, not chronologically. So what we know now as the first book and the second book, they weren't composed in that order. And Bach, as he so often did with material, he kept sort of triturating it and reworking it and transcribing it himself. I mean, after all, in the recording program, there is the concerto, which is, you have Bach by Liszt, Bach by Busoni, Bach by Rachmaninoff, and then you have Bach by Bach, which is the concerto. It was written originally for violin. And so he did this with so much of his own material, which continually reappears in various cantatas and other pieces as well, that this is exactly what we were speaking of earlier, that you have to be very careful that no matter how awe-inspiring Bach is, to not let that somehow inhibit you from working with what he left us. And again, this cycle, welltempered Clavier, was never composed as we know it today. I would say that yes, it is in a way the pivot point of the program, in the sense that, well, it was written for violin, transcribed for the piano by Busoni, in a transcription which sounds more like it was meant for organ than for piano. So it really encompasses so many aspects of the spatial characteristics of Bach's music. I mean, it is the single mightiest movement, I guess, probably, that he ever composed, and it's just, it's a magnificent piece. Every time there's something that is profoundly affecting, and what I always found almost unfathomable is that at the end of these variations, already for me, it's a Cathedral sonore. It's a cathedral of sounds, and it's as if every variation is seen through a different colored stained glass window of such a cathedral, for example. And what is absolutely incredible is that at the end there is no conclusion, and this piece is leaving the performer and the listener with the sort of confirmed sensation that everything is possible. In a way, this is for me the incarnation of this word aletheia, which means, of Greek origin, which means truth, but what it really means is opening without retreat. So that's what truth would be. And for me, the end of the chaconne illustrates this to perfection. For me, D minor, it's one of the most important tonalities for me. It's been sort of haunting my choice of pieces for many years now. There's something so solemn. It is dramatic without being hysterical. There's something absolutely, there is a sense of density and gravity about, but the reconciliation of opposites, again, a theme that is very, very dear to my heart. The idea that it is incredibly dense without being heavy. So you get this idea of gravity and lightness somehow reconciled. Something solemn. It's a pretty insightful question. For me, it's always been about transformation. About transformation without ever losing what the core is. I guess it's going back to this idea of opening without retreat. You open, you change, but you never renier. You're never in denial of any of the facts, any of the cards that were dealt to you. But somehow you keep growing from this, sort of basic data. And so this is, transformation, I guess, is for me the idea of this piece.